For years, WWE's third brand, NXT, has been home to many memorable moments that will be talked about for years to come. What started as a reality competition show somehow transformed into what some consider one of the greatest wrestling promotions in the world right now. Some might argue it has even surpassed WWE, which created it in the first place, with matches that make the main roster sometimes feel like the actual developmental brand. That's why it comes as a bit of a surprise that there has only ever been one NXT match featured on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. While NXT does have its own pay-per-views in the form of NXT takeovers, some of which are, if we're being honest, far better than WWE's own event, it's almost a shame that the stars of the black and gold brand have never gotten to showcase their talents on the biggest stage in wrestling. That's why today we're going to be answering the question in the title of this video. I'm sure it's on a lot of everybody's minds. Should NXT be featured at WrestleMania? If you're a fan of NXT like I am, you probably find it to be a slap in the face almost that NXT seems underappreciated in the eyes of WWE's chairman Vince McMahon. Considering the fact that the bulk of WWE's roster, like the main roster talent, all originated in NXT. You would think they would be more grateful for the work that these athletes put in during their time there, but as we know, a lot of these guys don't get used on the main roster that much, or are undervalued and underused sometimes. Guys like the current Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan are a few of the names that come to mind from guys who made it big after coming from NXT. These are two guys who, like, everyone will remember for years to come, and may even be in the Hall of Fame someday. And they both started in NXT. There are, of course, some NXT call-ups, like I said, that have been sort of turned into a joke or simply haven't been given any meaningful screen time since their arrival on the main roster. And it almost makes me wonder if they should have even stayed in NXT to begin with and never really gone up to the main roster, which is a video for another time, basically. And there's a lot of them that really should go back to NXT or should have stayed in NXT from the beginning. But let's get back to the topic at hand. WrestleMania is the biggest show of the year for WWE, as all you know, and has even become a 2-night event in the last couple years. It was mainly because of like the pandemic and everything, so they decided to, instead of doing the full 7-hour show that it is, they split it between two nights. And it's again this year, WrestleMania 37 is also 2 nights. The show normally clocks in at, I'd say, around 7 or 8 hours, if you include the 2-hour kickoff show that normally takes place before it. So it's not like there isn't room for some extra matches, considering how long the show actually is. We all can see the struggle that WWE sometimes seems to have with coming up with enough matches to fill the allotted runtime of WrestleMania, which often leads to them sort of just putting on random pointless matches that they got from like a bag of trash, essentially, is what some of them feel like. They're just reaching into a bag of trash and pulling out whatever pointless matches they can throw at us just to have something to fill the time and something to work with. If only they had a third brand that they could pull matches from. All kidding aside, wouldn't it make WrestleMania more watchable if there weren't as many, like, filler matches, as they're called? The matches that just, like I said, are just used to take up time. And there were actually more in-ring spectacles for us to enjoy. Don't get me wrong, WWE is good at putting together matches from the rivalries that they actually put their time and effort into. But why bother just filling for time with these other random matches that are thrown together at the last minute when NXT is literally right there. They could just grab from NXT. Just to keep the show alive and keep people tuned in. Just have some matches pulled from NXT. Since all the NXT shows are put together by a different group of people anyways, like Triple H and William Regal run the show, Vince McMahon wouldn't really have to do much. He could just let them figure out what to do with these matches, let them sort of schedule the match at WrestleMania and put it all together, choreograph it, everything else, get the match put on WrestleMania, and let them to control the NXT matches that take place on the show. Vince wouldn't have to do a thing but sit back and watch. It's the easiest thing they could possibly do, and for whatever reason, they don't do that. I don't know what exactly the reasoning is, but imagine the attention NXT would actually get if some of the matches were shown to the main roster crowd who might have never watched NXT before, because there are people that only watch like the main roster stuff like Raw and SmackDown. They don't really pay attention to NXT. Even the year when they started pushing NXT a little bit to kind of combat AEW, when they had NXT at Survivor Series and everything else, but people still don't really pay that much attention to NXT. They may have just never felt interested in watching it because they didn't really know exactly what it was. If NXT superstars went out there at WrestleMania in front of the biggest crowd they've ever competed in front of and put on the same caliber matches that we see at like the NXT TakeOver event, imagine how many people would realize what they're missing out on. I'm not saying that they need to have like 5 matches that feature NXT at WrestleMania, but just a couple would be nice, like 1 or 2, maybe even 3. Don't you agree? I mean, I think that would add a lot to, that would benefit NXT a lot as well, not just WWE and WrestleMania and everything else. And now normally NXT puts on a takeover event during WrestleMania weekend, and it always feels like it's that takeover event that they put on always feels like their own WrestleMania, because they usually try to go big. They go big with every NXT takeover usually, but there are some that weren't as good as others. But like this one feels like the biggest one. This one feels like the WrestleMania of NXT takeovers, because it's over the biggest weekend for wrestling, which is WrestleMania weekend. So they put on big matches there. However, wouldn't it be better if they didn't need to do that? If they didn't need to put on a separate like NXT pay-per-view, and it's like instead of having its own pay-per-view where their main championships like the NXT title or the women's or North American title were on the line, why not have those matches at WrestleMania where they can be prominently featured? Like, have championship matches, have your main titles from NXT on the line at WrestleMania. That would be so much better and would give NXT the proper respect and attention that I feel it deserves. And who knows, those matches might even be better than some of the main roster matches we're watching. So, should NXT be featured at WrestleMania? Yes, I think it should. But what do you guys think? Do you think NXT would put on good enough matches to stand out at WrestleMania amongst all the other like main roster matches that are put on? Also, if NXT were featured at this year's WrestleMania, which matches would you like to see from NXT? I personally would like to see Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. I think that would be a fantastic match to do at WrestleMania, just because of the rivalry that they're building and that they were friends in the Undisputed Era, and now Adam Cole turned on Kyle O'Reilly. So you have that basic tag team breakup match that I think would do really well on the main roster and might get people to want to tune in on NXT now to see what happens next. Even people that don't normally watch NXT. Or even Finn Balor defending the NXT title against Karrion Kross. I think that would really do well. Like I said earlier, put the championship on the line at WrestleMania. So I'd like to see that and see Karrion Kross win the title back. And again, it would make people want to watch NXT on Wednesday to see what happened. Those are just two matches that I think would be perfect for the show and would really show off how good NXT actually is at creating matches. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments section, and be sure to put the SmackDown on that like button. And subscribe for more wrestling videos just like this every Thursday right here on the Hills Maniacs YouTube channel. We like talking about different things in wrestling, like pay-per-view predictions and things like that. So if you're a fan of those, check it out. Thank you for watching, wrestling fans, and we'll see you in the next one.
Subscribe.